Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Becoming an Empowered Parent online series, offering expert tools for embracing imperfection, building connection, and creating more peace and joy within your family. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm your host, Debbie Zeichner. I am a parent coach, a mindfulness facilitator, and a licensed clinical social worker. And today I'm absolutely honored and thrilled to be joined by Dr. Rick Hanson. Welcome, Rick.
Hi there, Debbie. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Before we dive into today's exciting topic of resilience and resilient happiness, I wanted to just share a little bit more about Rick and his background. So Rick Hanson is a psychologist, a senior fellow of UC Berkeley's Greater Good Science Center, and New York Times best-selling author. His 6 books have been published in 29 languages with over 900,000 copies in English alone. He's lectured at NASA, Google, Oxford, and Harvard, and has taught in meditation centers worldwide. So again, welcome, Rick, and thank you for joining us. So I have been following your work for years. As we talked about earlier, I'm part of Mindful Schools. That's part of my background and training in mindfulness. And, you know, in addition to the many books that you have, just your website alone, rickhanson.net, your website alone is a treasure trove of incredibly valuable resources from meditations and interviews and podcasts and blog post. Is absolutely incredible, all that you offer. So I really encourage all of our listeners and viewers to check out Rick's website. And in particular, what I love is your Just One Thing newsletter, which really offers those practical tips and takeaways that really help support us in developing resilience and happiness on our journey. So I just wanted to give a little personal plug, and thank you for that.
Thank you.
So before we dive into our topic, I'd love for you to just share a little bit more about your journey and how you got into this work. You know, in particular, sort of getting into the science and the field of studying happiness and resilience, and how that all came about for you.
I would say there were some kind of key turning points. I'll say them quickly. Yeah. The first was deep in my memories as a child was this wistful feeling that a lot of people around me were unnecessarily unhappy. Mm-hmm. And I grew up in a really normal range, intact family, middle class, suburban Los Angeles environment. And still, the adults would argue a lot with each other. The kids would fuss with each other, parents and kids. It would just do it. And I just thought, why is this? Why is there so much unnecessary unhappiness? I didn't know. I was like 3 years old, but I had the feeling that I genuinely can locate it kind of in the background of my early experiences. And then second, I had a real turning point when I was a teenager. I was very miserable. I was socially awkward. I was very self-conscious. I was shy. I was very neurotic. I was very young going through school, and you know, a lot of reasons for this. And it all seemed horrible. I was kind of despairing. And then I was about 15 or so. I know I was about that age. And I suddenly realized that however bad it had been, I could always learn a little bit today. I could always get a little more comfortable around girls. I could get a little less, you know, just freaked out by my parents. I could be a little less preoccupied with my own neurotic mind. You know, I could just learn a little bit every day. I could get a little more skillful. I could grow a little bit. I could heal a little every day. And that was so hopeful. And that was just a revelation. And I got, at that point, very interested in how learning broadly, by which I include growing, our work as therapists, healing, it's all forms of learning, with the least of which is remembering the multiplication tables, right? How do we learn? Because learning is like the superpower of superpowers. It's the one we use to grow the rest of them. It's the strength of strengths. It's the strength we draw upon to grow other strengths like resilience, happiness, mindfulness, love, wisdom, and so forth. So I got really interested actually in the fundamental process of growing the good, you know, of various kinds inside for others as well as ourselves. And that set me on my way. Then I got interested in the how of that through psychology. Then I got interested in meditation. This would be the middle of the 1970s. And then in the last 20 years, as brain science has exploded, I brought that third element in the mix: psychology, contemplative wisdom, the perennial wisdom of the ages around the world, combined with brain science, psychology, and contemplative wisdom, wow, those three together, sparks fly. And that has then set me on my way. Particularly in terms of what's helpful for people. The ideas are really neat, but it's how it helps people that I'm mostly interested in.
Right. So you just had this inner motivation from such a young age, right? That was such a drive and motivating factor for you. So that's incredible. And we're grateful for that, because now we get to benefit from that.
I wandered in the wilderness
yeah.
for a while, this and that, but yeah. And for me, just to say it to people, we have this profound power, and we can share this power even with our young children. We all have this profound power to help ourselves a little bit every day.
Yeah.
And to help grow the good that lasts, that sticks to our ribs, because it's hardwired into our brain. Yeah. And so then we take it with us every day. We have that incredible power. No one can defeat us, and no one can do the work for us. Yeah. So it makes it real, and we earn the fruits of our own practice.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just being able to tap into that mindset to be able to know that it's possible to grow the good. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. One of the main things that this summit and the series is really about is becoming an empowered parent. And your work really focuses on happiness and resilience. And, I see that there's such like an interconnection between becoming empowered and developing the sense of resilience. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that. And also along with that, what are some ways in which parents can go about developing that sense, and for those who have it, even strengthening, but developing and strengthening that real core, that sense of resilience? How can we go about that? What does that look like?
Perfectly great. So so first, just about my background a little bit. I have a lot of background with children and families. I've been a child therapist. My dissertation was on 15-month-olds.
Wow.
My first book was about how to take good care of mothers over the long haul, not just postpartum. If we want to change the world in a generation, make the welfare of mothers the #1 public policy priority. Hello.
Yeah.
It'll change, everything. So I have a lot of background there.
So
and my wife and I have 2 adult kids, and who are dealing with all that we're dealing with right now with the coronavirus. So resilient well-being, think of that as a kind of goal. We want to develop that resilient well-being. The point of resilience is coping and also protecting our well-being amidst the waves of life. That's what resilience enables. It's a means to an end. Okay, how do we develop the inner strengths that foster resilient well-being, while acknowledging, of course, that factors outside us make a difference too? Like having a good public health care system, or having a neighbor who's friendly, friends who will come over and talk to you. External things matter, but one thing that life teaches us often, including at this time right now of the pandemic, is that very often what's outside us can just fall apart or be taken away for different reasons. Right. And what's inside you psychologically is what you can ultimately most count upon. And it's what you have with you every day. So the essence here is of self-reliance. This is not some new age or airy-fairy or pie-in-the-sky thing. This is gritty and tough. This is like, okay, how do we grow strengths inside so we can deal, and stay reasonably happy along the way? Yeah. Okay, how do we get those strengths? Strengths include grit, determination, mindfulness, compassion, you name it. And you could think also about what you would like to support the growth of in your children in terms of their social, emotional learning, really broadly defined, which includes positive motivation and body learning. Okay, how do we do it? Well, it's a 2-stage process, and it's very simple, but you have to do the second step. First step, experience whatever you want to grow. Second step, turn it into a lasting change in your brain. Otherwise, it was momentarily useful or fun or enjoyable and nice, great, nothing wrong with that, but it had no lasting value.
Right, you want it to stick, as you said.
Yeah, it didn't stick. So how does learning happen? Experiencing does not equal learning. And most professionals, me included, and people in general, forget the second step. So if you want to help your experiences to leave lasting physical changes in the brain, which is the fundamental process of positive change, there are different ways to do it, but basically there are 3 things that people can do that are really grounded in science, and they're so easy to do. 1, stay with the experience for a breath or longer. Stay with it. If you're feeling strong, stay with it. If you feel like, you know, I can endure, stay with it. If you feel connected to another person, stay with it. If you have a good idea, as I have acquired some recently, about how not to be so irritating to your wife when you're both stuck in the house together, stay with it for a breath or longer.
It's like a savoring. As you're saying that, when I hear stay with it, it makes me think of the word savoring comes to mind.
Yeah, savoring is a good word. A little key point though, savoring is applied to enjoyable experiences, which are great. But a lot of what we want to grow is sort of more neutral, like an idea or a skill or like gritty determination, or honestly, like a sobering lesson. I think a lot of us are getting sobering lessons that the chickens are coming home to roost, you know, in a lot of ways. And people are realizing, wow, I need to take better care of my health, or wow, I need to invest more in my relationships, or wow, I need to pay more attention to what's going on in the politics of my country, because, you know, when it's life and death, it actually starts to really matter. So, you know, so these are things we grow inside ourselves too. So, so stay with it for a breath or longer. 2, try to feel it in your body. 3, focus on what is rewarding about it, what's enjoyable or meaningful about it. Those 3 things, among other things that I teach on my website, but those 3 are my go-tos again and again. They will increase the conversion from state to trait. We're trying to grow trait resilience, trait well-being, trait compassion, trait love, trait wisdom of any kind. We're trying to grow the good, so then we have it with us wherever we go. And any one of those 3 things will help do that multiple times a day. And the more you do it, the better. So that's the essence of the process. And then maybe we should talk about what would be one thing perhaps that someone would be trying to grow these days, and then also how to teach your kids to do this.
Absolutely. And those are all questions I have. And it even makes me think, you know, as we develop these traits in ourselves, right, with all the modeling that's going on, with the mirroring that's going on with the mirror neurons, right, that is part of what really helps to establish and develop those traits in our kids. And that's definitely one area that I want to get to. You know, a question that comes up for me even right now is, you know, just thinking about the incredible amount of stress and anxiety and overwhelm that parents are experiencing, right? And so with all of that happening kind of along those lines of, you know, doing it all and being it all and having it all, the amount of self-doubt and insecurity that can bring up, when you kind of throw all that into the mix, what suggestions do you have for parents who are really struggling with that, and that especially now, right, with the incredible amount of stress and anxiety?
Right.
What suggestions do you have?
Yeah, I'll definitely name some things. So what we've talked about so far is the how of taking charge of the brain change process from the inside out. In other words, the how of helping yourself grow every day. So that's good. Now let's apply it to the what that we want to grow, right? So, for example, at this time, understandably, when people are under threat, they tend to contract, their view tends to close in, and understandably, they might feel paralyzed or panicky, like I got to do something, right? Okay. So so you've asked the exact right question. What's the relationship between the challenge and the inner strengths that would be matched to it? It's like if you have a flat tire, putting gas in the tank doesn't help. You need a spare tire. So what would be matched to it? So right now what people are dealing with are a lot of threats to safety. So resources that relate to safety are very helpful right now. So specifically, one is being able to calm the body. Absolutely foundational, calm the body, the scared animal of the body. So focusing on exhaling, because as you exhale, your heart rate naturally slows, the parasympathetic branch of the nervous system gets engaged, you're calming. Several long exhalations in a row. Do other things that help you feel calm, not numb, not frozen, calm and strong. For me, calm and strong. And then, you know, multiple times when you feel calm and strong, slow down to receive this experience into yourself.
So it relates directly back with what you were saying before,
Yeah,
to have the experience.
And then grow the trait of calm strength. That's a real key. Another one I think is really important for everyone these days, and certainly for parents, is to understand the difference between want to and have to. Like, I have a lot of experience in wilderness, and people can think about other times they've been in emergencies, and what did they draw upon there? And one of the things I've learned from many uncomfortable times, there's a world of difference between want to and have to. And want to has to fall away when have to comes forward.
Right.
Stay safe today.
Right.
You know, and then when we surrender to have to, and we quit craving, you know, getting attached to, clinging to, want to, which we could do 3 months ago. But for many people, it's like, no. And then if you surrender to have to, it clears away a lot of needless stress, and you start focusing on what you have to do. And it gets very simple. You know, I want to argue with you about all that. I can't afford to do that now. I have to stay out of a stupid quarrel because I can't do that. We have to stay focused here. I have to protect my inner core so I can keep on going. For example, that's the second thing. Be really clear on the difference between want to and have to, and come to peace with have to. We have to be careful for multiple months. It's very clear from the public health experts. We just have to be careful. Okay, be careful for several months. It's not like living in a war zone. Think of all the people throughout history, including our parents, who dealt with much harder things than what we have to deal with right now. And I'm really clear that some people will be dealing with horrible situations, like an older parent in the hospital you can't visit. I mean, that's really real. But on the whole, just that is very calming. And then another thing is to keep letting it sink in that my kids are safe today. Like, we are safe today. We are safe today. I am all right right now. Really coming into the present. The future is not totally clear. Every day we know more. We are getting a grip on this around the world, especially in the more developed countries. You know, people are spread out. We are flattening the curve. It is slowing it down. We need to keep doing that. You know, we will know more in the future. Let the person you are 30 days from now make the decisions that you can postpone for 30 days. See what I mean? But reassure yourself in your body, we're okay today. Hug your kids, pet them, smell their hair. You know, that smell their hair thing that mothers do. Dad's like, what? You're smelling their hair? You know, yeah, smell their hair. Dad, you know, dudes, you could do it too. Smell the hair. So I would say those three things. Calm strength, right? Accept have to, which is different from want to, have to, and really focus on the emotion of reassurance.
And these are such important tools to have, whether we're in the middle of a pandemic or we're not in the middle of a pandemic.
Really
this is just life, right? This is just really savoring and being in that present moment. And I'm wondering, what are your thoughts about how parents can help develop these skills and traits within their children? What does that look like? How can we show up as parents, and what's needed to be able to develop the skills of true resilience and grit and happiness in our children?
Yeah, so I think keep in mind how and what. What am I trying to grow in the child? What am I encouraging the development of? The what? Like self-worth, or being able to calm themselves down when they're scared, or control their impulses and not bonk their sister on the head with something. You know, what are we trying to grow? And then how are we growing it? And the how is very important. Some learning sinks in, but a lot of it just washes right through us. It's lost, right? So with that in mind then, younger children, what we're doing as parents to help them grow is we're helping them have beneficial experiences of various kinds. And then what we can do is to slow it down so that we keep, in the famous saying, neurons that fire together, wire together. So we keep the neurons firing. We help the child stay with that experience for a breath or two or more. And we help them feel it in their body, and we help them enjoy it. We help them sink into it in various ways. We're doing it for them. And in the process of that, we are steepening their growth curve, right? We are steepening their growth curve.
Mm-hmm.
Kids that are slightly older, my experience from about 7 onward, even
Mm-hmm.
younger, you can teach them how to do this themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You could say, honey, it's your brain. It's changing. You can help it change for the better. You can be the boss of your brain. Great. You know, how do I do that? Well, it's very simple. Have it, enjoy it. Have the experiences that are helpful, and then enjoy them for a breath or more, and feel like they're sinking into you. And that way you can develop, you can grow whatever the what is that you want to grow these days. So, and I think for me, much as we would expect children to learn how to read by the time they're in 3rd grade, well, by the time they're in 3rd grade, I think we should expect them to learn how to take in the good, to help the good land inside and help themselves grow. So we teach them how to do it. And then I think last, it's really great to find natural moments in the day at a meal. So a moment of gratitude, but don't just have it be a moment or an idea. Once they're experiencing it, take it in. You can't just experience it. You have to help it really land inside. Or when we're putting them to bed, up to about age 14, when they let us talk to them when we put them to bed. That's a great time to slow it down with a kid and just sort of marinate, or as you said earlier, savor what's beneficial and beautiful and feel like it's really going in, like water into a sponge. I use very concrete language with children.
Yeah.
Water into a sponge, warmth coming in, a jewel in the treasure chest of your heart, like rain sinking down softly inside you. Anyway,
and
in those
are
ways.
you saying that one of the best ways to do that is, you know, and again, I think it for me, what I'm thinking, it comes back to mindfulness, but one of the ways to let it sink in is that it's almost as though you're saying, before moving on to the next thing, or the next topic, just kind of let it sit, take the breath.
That's right. Let it land. And I think a breath, a lot can happen in the brain during the 6 seconds of a single breath, let's say. And so, yeah, exactly. And, you know, that's it. Let it land. Like, why waste it? It's so funny. Like, we chase these experiences. It's like we're chasing food, but as soon as we get it, we don't swallow. We just...
We inhale.
We don't
like
inhale.
quick,
We don't take it in. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it happens so fast. So in the little bit of time that we have left together, I'm wondering, and I was going to ask you to elaborate a bit on this very important and popular phrase that's in the field of neuroscience, which is that neurons that fire together wire together. Can you say just a bit more about that and the significance that it has in parenting?
Oh, sure. We take it for granted that children learn things over time. They learn to walk from crawling, they learn to speak, you know, they learn things. Well, or they hopefully learn to share their toys, you know. How does learning happen? Learning requires a change in the brain. No change in the brain, no development, no acquisition of mindfulness, compassion, patience, anything. That brain change process is physical, and it occurs in many ways. Neurons that fire together do wire together, new connections form. Existing connections get strengthened or weakened in beneficial ways, depending on how you help yourself. Blood comes to busy regions. I mean, you can see the actual physical changes in the brain of people who, for example, do a lot of mindfulness training. Their brains have been studied. People going through therapy, their brains have been studied. Non-human animals, acknowledging the ethical issues there, their brains get intensively studied, and you know their structures are changing. And I find with children, and also frankly with many people who push away mental health talk or anything like that because it's kind of airy-fairy, when you make it mechanical, it's your brain that's changing. Suddenly, they're motivated. So I find that talking about the brain is actually really helpful from the standpoint of motivation. And it's also reassuring. And it inspires confidence in your practices. Because, you know, on any given day, there's only a little bit of change for the better. It inspires confidence to keep at it, to realize that feeling grateful for a breath or two in a row, feeling reassured or relief for a breath or two in a row, or feeling that I have friends who support me, who are I can't touch them, but we can talk and we're friends. They care about me. Feeling that for 10 seconds in a row, even better, half a minute, is actually physically changing your brain, so that over time you are affecting who you are becoming. That's extraordinary to realize. You are influencing who you will be a week and a month from now. Just like who you are now, if you look backwards, is the result of that guy or whoever, gal, the steps they took a month or a year ago. And, you know, if you look backwards, you might think, what were you doing? What were you thinking? You know, and now you look forward and you think, okay, I get the wake-up call. I want to help the person I'm going to be a week or a year from now be stronger and happier for the sake of others, not just myself, right? And we have the power to do that.
We have the power to do that. And I think we also, as parents, have such a responsibility to do that. I mean, I think it just, you know, as we always talk about, our kids are like mirrors into that stuff, that old stuff that is worth us looking at, right? Opening up the attic and seeing what's there, those old beautiful relics, as Aaron Salzberg says, you know, just being able to own that. And we have the ability, as you and I were talking about earlier, just to really impact these generations to come, which to me is such a beautiful opportunity that we have. And I think sometimes we get in our own way. And I think the moment that we can step out of our own way to really think about the impact that this has on our brain, and as you said, that we can always learn, we can always grow, and that it really does begin with just one thing, just one step, just one breath, whatever that is,
exactly
to kind of take your words. To me, then it feels so much less overwhelming.
That's right.
And so much more doable.
Yeah, there's a proverb I remember, I think about a lot. It says, think not lightly of good, saying it will not come to me. Drop by drop is the water pot filled. Likewise, the wise one, gathering it little by little, fills oneself with good. And I believe in that. I believe in drops. I don't know about one bucket at a time. That's kind of a lot, let alone a swimming pool, but a drop. A few drops a day, drop after drop after drop, day after day after day. That's doable. And that's great.
Yeah, just that breath too, right? That drop, that breath.
Yeah.
Rick, thank you so much for your wisdom and your dedication and your passion. It's infectious. I know just even as you were talking, I found myself taking some breaths, right? Just really trying to just have that, right? And take that time. So thank you so much. I know also that you are so gracious and generous in offering a free gift to our viewers and our listeners. And I'm wondering if you wanted to share a bit about that.
Oh, I really appreciate you saying that. And what I'm going to do is leave it vague, because I know that things are changing and I'm developing lots of new things. And so I know that I just tell people it's going to be really cool. It's going to be neat. You're going to want it. And it'll be good. And the people who work with me who are much better at this stuff than I am, they're going to make sure it's really good for Debbie.
Oh, that's so wonderful. Well, again, thank you so much for your time. And, you know, as I said at the outset, I really, really encourage everybody to check out Rick's website, rickhanson.net. You can spend hours there. So just set aside some time, because there's a lot there. There's so many gems and valuable things.
And you can spend only a minute too, because there's a lot of stuff there that just is like a minute and bingo, you've got it. We also have a lot of online programs and a lot of online offerings that are really good these days, when people are home.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you again, Rick, for your time. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here, for joining us. And I will look forward to seeing you tomorrow for another day of the Becoming an Empowered Parent series. And take good care. Bye for now.